Perception, a very important tool in managing not only society, but also managing our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Welcome to today's perspective. My name is Fred Makubuya. I am a clinical psychologist by virtue of my area of discipline. And the nature of my work is 80%, I say this on a daily basis. I spend it listening to what people have actually going through. People who are depressed, people who are anxious, people who are going through different issues, trauma, bereavement, and of course people who are going through very difficult moment. All I do, different from what the rest do, is I don't tell them what to do. I don't decide for them because that is not my responsibility. My responsibility is to open the environment they are in, so that they can be able to understand what they are going through, mobilize the resources around you, and then be able to migrate, of course, from one place to the other and be able to get back to the levels of momentum. Today's perspective entirely focuses on the things that shape our perception. Remember, the goal for this program is to make sure that I am not here to change your thinking. I am here to share the avenues of other things that destroy our perception, and then so that you can base on those to make your informed perception. Remember, as a man thinketh, so does he become. Also remember that a man can never go beyond what they think. So how we think, how we perceive certain things may actually be different from the way others do because of the number of aspects. A few weeks ago, I had a meeting with one of the CEOs in this country, the CEO of Kampala City Traders Association. And so we're discussing a number of concepts, both in the line of day-to-day life and then in the day-to-day business. So Abe Mwesige, given his background, he's a business person. Of course, his area of qualification is into the business. And so after him sharing a number of concepts, I also told him in our branch of psychology, or in our area of discipline, we have what we call the 5P models. And so when I told him about the 5P model, of course, all he was waiting for was for me to talk about the model they use as marketer, the place, the position, the price, and many of those. But then he realized I took him in a different direction. That is the point I realized that, it means we can have the same thing, we can have the same concept, but being broken down differently by different people, by different background. That kind of simple discussion propelled me to go ahead and read deep about the 5P models, because my thinking as a clinical psychologist was to do with the client's problem, it was to do with the predisposing problem, it was to do with the perpetuating problem, and many of the other 5Ps. So little did I know, or little have I come to realize that actually every profession has this model called the 5P model. When you ask the marketeers, they have this model. When you ask the judiciary, they have this model. When you ask the medics, they have this model. When you ask the security experts, they have this model called the 5P model. When you ask other qualifications when you ask other people who are qualified in the different areas, they will also tell you they own this model. And to that point that I came to realize, it means we can all sit in the same class, we can be taught by the same people, but the models and the diversion through which we look at things may actually be different. Today's perspective, we'll focus on the 5P model and how significant these models can be very significant in changing our cognition, in changing our thoughts, in changing our feelings, in changing our behavior, so that at the end of the day, you can be able to work on your cognition, on your perception, so that you can be able, when you are confronted with challenges, trials, and tribulations, illnesses, medical or mental illnesses, you can be able to deal with the issues at hand. For instance, for us in our area of discipline, when we talk about the psychiatric by this principle, the psychologist by this principle. And for us, the 5P model simply means, what is the presenting problem? What is it? In other words, when a person sits before me for therapy, for counseling, they're battling through a number of issues. My center of focus and understanding will basically go to the 5P model. Number one, the presenting problem. What is it that client X and Y is putting on the table as the common issue that is causing them to, of course, to battle with the issues? The second P is the predisposing problem, the predisposing factor. So by that I'm looking at, when I look at his life, what are some of the issues that are causing likeliness to increase and make him continue going through the issues he's battling with? Now, the predisposing problem, what are some of the factors that are increasing the vulnerability or the likeliness of that behavior to happen? That is my perspective. When you look at the third P, we are looking at the precipitating factors. And by that, my center of focus in the work that I will be doing with this client, I am looking at what are the trigger. If somebody is smoking, what are some of the things that are causing them to smoke? If somebody is a drunkard, if somebody is a drug abuser, what is it that is triggering them to get into that state of abusing drugs? This is what we call the perpetuating factors under the 5P model used by the clinical psychologist and the psychiatric. So perpetuating factors, we are simply saying, what are those things that are keeping the person in that state? For instance, you are battling with addiction. You could have gotten out of this situation. But when I look at the environment, when I look at the people around you, when I look at the things you listen to, when I look at the things that are rotating your life, it literally means these are the factors that are keeping you in that lifestyle and in the long run leading you to the behavior that you may not seem to be wanting. And finally, when the person is seated before me for call it session, I look at the protective factor that in spite of the fact that the person is battling with the issues, addiction, the family is off, you have issues with your wife and the husband, you have issues at the work employment, what are some of the thinking that are keeping you as a client to be still living up to date? The 5P model in that aspect is what actually means. If you take this 5P model to another principle, of course, from the medical principle, given the consultation and research I have made, this is a principle that is also bought in this kind of profession. So the 5P model to the medical, yes, it may be a bit similar, but slightly different. What is their focus when you go through? What are some of the cores? What are some of the ethics that guide the medical using the 5P model? The first P is the personalization. And see, when the medical doctor looks at you, is basically looking at what is it that is telling. What are the needs of the client or the patient? What is the diagnosis? And what is the treatment? To them, the first P is the personalized model. They are looking at the diagnosis, the needs, and then what we call the treatment. Remember, we said the 5P model is a model that other people, other professionals use. Their understanding may be the same, but differ in the number of ways. The medics look at the second P as the prediction model. In other words, if they are treating and delivering the treatment at the end of the day, what is the use of the analysis? How is this going to help them? So the third P is now what we call the prevention aspect. It is the third model that the medical doctors use. Talk about the fourth P, which is the participatory. In other words, what is the client's involvement in all that I am doing? That is the model that the medics buy in their day-to-day work. Is it the same as the psychological principle? Yes, slightly they have the same principles, but differ in one way or the other. And the last P is actually the population. Their understanding is that everybody should be able to access the healthcare services. Now, those are the 5P models in the perception of the medical doctors. I began with the psychologist, or call it the psychiatric, those in that kind of discipline. The medics, that is how they look at things. The question is, even those that manage us at the workplaces, the human resource managers, surprising or not surprising, they have the 5P model. And what is their center of focus? Of course, when these human resource managers are doing their things. The 5P models, to them, it is about the philosophy. Okay, what are the beliefs in the company? The second P, to them, it is about the policies. What is it that is going to guide our day-to-day life? That is about policy from the human resource perspective. Talk about the programs. What are some of the things that we are going to be able to do, the initiation that we are going to put in place to help us, using the policies set and the philosophy, to be able to put down or to put up what exactly that we want to do. And of course, they've been successful at that model. And then what is it, the practice? What is it that they are going to do in their day-to-day life to see it that what the company wants comes to reality? And the last P is about performance. And this is about the measure of the results and how they are going to be able to achieve this. This perspective program of today about the 5P is a model that initially I thought it is us that use it. It's a model that people globally use, different disciplines use. They have something in common with them, but then they have something that looks slightly different. How is this relevant? Is that yes, we can have the same thing, but the understanding may actually sound to be a bit different. The marketeer also have the same model called the 5P model. And to them, their interest when it comes to the marketing model, it is about the product that they are going to sell. That's the 5P. It's about the price. So how much is my product going to cost? It is about the promotion. So what are some of the actions that I'm going to do to make sure that my product is everywhere? Of course, the other aspect is about the place. Where am I going to sell my product? And the last is about the people. At the end of the day, it's not the animals to consume this. It's about the people. So it's the 5P model. The psychologists have it. The medical doctors have it. The human resource managers have it. Even those in the marketing arena have what we call the 5P model. I am also got surprised that the security, those in cyber crimes, also have the model called the 5P model. And I want to challenge you to get deep and read some of these models, because they do not only help us in the field of academia, but even in their day-to-day life. Now, to the security expert, whatever they are going to do is actually embodied or surrounded by the 5P model. It is about planning before they go to execute anything. They must sit down and be able to plan. It is about protection. So to them, preparation is key. I attended one of the training under the Directorate of Fire Prevention. And to them, they will tell you before they go to execute, when fire catches up a particular place, this P model is very critical. They sit down and plan, how do I put this fire down? If we are going to put this fire down, are we protective enough that none of our staff will actually get endangered? So the issue of planning is key. The issue of protection to them as security expert, it is very key. The issue of proof is very key. The issue of promoter is also very key. And then the last one, the issue of partner. They believe from their security point of view that for whatever that they are going to do, they can't do it alone, but they can only execute it to dot when they partner with other people. That is the 5P model meaning when it comes to cybercrime and security. When we go to the guys that plan our project, the project managers, they also have a model called the 5P model. To them, what is critical is the planning aspect. To them, what is critical is the process. That is fundamental to them. To them, what is critical, the people are very fundamental. Those that are in the field of project managing, the planning, the process, the people, the project, and the profits. At the end of the day, whatever we do must be able to bring profits on table. That is their perspective using the 5P model. And then last but not the very least, even the judiciary has this model called the 5P model. And to them, the judiciary, the 5P model is perceived in the following angle. It is about planning. whatever we are going to do, we must be able to sit down and plan. Number 2, the second P is about the process. Whatever that we are going to do, the cases that we are going to execute and take over, it's about the process. So what are some of the procedures that we are going to go through in order to make sure that this comes into execution? Number 3, the third P is about the people. The judiciary does not plan for animals. Never, never, never. They plan for people. So the third P is about the people. As we plan, as we think through the processes, the people are central in whatever that we are going to do. And the third one is about the properties. Okay, what are the necessary resources that we shall be able to have in place to make sure that whatever we want comes into reality? And all those require what we call finances. And the third B is about the profits that is actually needed by many institutions. The 5P model, when it comes to many of us who do the teaching and the coaching practices, remember today's perspective focuses on the 5P model, how this sharpens people's thoughts, feelings, and behavior. And at the end of the day, we are able to get to the places that we want. So when you ask many of us who do the coaching, the mentorship, of course, the career session on our day-to-day, what shapes the work we do, what shapes us in the session, what is our core focus, what is our interest, what is understanding. Using the 5P model, we look at what we call the purpose. At the end of the day, when we are taking through this client, through the sessions, what is it that we want to achieve at the end of the day? So the first P under the coaching model is what we call the purpose. Why are we going to do what we are supposed to do? Number 2, it is about partnership. So in the coaching model, it is about partnership. We believe and trust that it is not about me alone. It is about me and you. So it is about relationship. If you went for a coaching session and anybody focuses on themselves, that is a wrong session. According to the P model, in mentorship and coaching, it is about partnership. Relationship is very key. Planning is very key. As we do whatever we are supposed to do, what are some of the processes that we are going to go through in order to sell the product that we are selling? The 4th P is about the partner. Who are we? What are the ways through which we are going to go through to do the things that we want actually to do? And fundamentally, the 5th P under the coaching is about the people. Whatever that we do in the mentorship, coaching, and session is about the people. And finally, when it comes to personal growth and development, the 5P is also critical. And under this, under the growth and development, we look at the physical domain, which is the first P, okay? And under that, we are looking at your well-being physically. We look at the psychological. By that, we are looking at your understanding in the cognitive arena. The 4th P is about, the 3rd P is about professionalism. Whatever that I am going to do, in whatever way I am going to do it, professionalism must be at the center, at the point, at the fulcrum of whatever that I'm going to do. And lastly, whatever that I'm going to do must be personal. It must be built and established on people. And finally, why this model is very important and critical, and why I chose to bring it to your consumption, is that it is the same model with the 5 Ps. But the understanding and the digestion of this model seems to be different. This literally means that we can't go through the same class, we can't have the same parents, we can't go through the same environment, but our perception can be different. Number 2, the people are central in every model that we do. The human resource approach, the people are there. In the approach of coaching, it is there. In the security arena, it is there. The judiciary have the people at the center. It means the people are very central and critical in whatever stage of activity that goes on. Today's perspective has focused on how we can use the 5P model in helping us deal with the issues. For us in our clinical practice, as psychologists, social workers, and psychiatric, the 5P model, which is the presenting problem. When I have the privilege to have a client who is going through a very tough moment, what is central is what is causing him to behave the way he's behaving. So the presenting factor is very key. the predisposing factor. What is it that is increasing the vulnerability of the client? What is it that is increasing the issues that are going on in his life? The precipitating factor. What are some of those that are triggering him to get deeper into the issues that he doesn't want? And then the perpetuating factor. What are those that are keeping him around the issues and the core problems that are happening in his life? And thirdly, the protective factors. What are those amidst the trials and tribulation that are protecting him? Probably should have been dead. He is not dead because of the factors that are surrounding him. We can go through the same places, but our perception is very different. Perception is very key in fundamentally determining a number of things, but by and large, if we are able to develop our cognition, our thinking, our control over thoughts, feelings, and behavior, that, amongst the many factors, is how we look at things. This is my perspective. Remember to subscribe, hit that bell, but fundamentally make a comment in reality, in agreement or in disagreement. That is very key and very okay. Anyway, this is my perspective. But what is your perspective?